Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 9 in the series Viewers Games. From Croatia in Europe, and it is Antonio who sent me this game. He says, "Hey Rick, I was white in this game, I come from Croatia. If you could, I'd like you to give us some tips on mid-game plans. Love your videos man, keep it up." Thank you Antonio. Okay, let's when the middle game starts in this game, let's give it some extra attention. Let's have a look at this game. It was Antonio with white who played Rima with black. It was played on the chess.com server and I believe it was a correspondence game, one day for each move. Let's have a look. d4 from Antonio, d5, c4, c6, this is the Slav defense, knight c3, knight f6, bishop f4 is one of the variations, e6, knight f3 developing, bishop b4 developing, and here Antonio decides to take on d5. Rima took back with the c-pawn. Then we have a very symmetrical pawn structure. More interesting play would give taking with the e-pawn to at least make the pawn structure not symmetrical. But of course both moves are very playable. C takes d5 or e takes d5. It's just a matter of taste. a3 from Antonio, kicking the bishop. Bishop takes and the pawn takes back. And knight e4. With an obvious threat of taking the pawn on c3. Here queen c2 is a very natural move, defending the pawn, putting the queen on the natural square. But Antonio did not see that his pawn was attacked, or he sacrificed it purposefully. He played e3. His opponent took on c3 and Antonio played queen b3. You can get nice compensation for the pawn with queen c2, attacking the knight goes back to e4, that's the most logical square, and then you can play bishop d3, and you're threatening to take the knight, and after the pawn takes back you can take that pawn, so you win your pawn back. Here black could play queen a5 check, and it gets quite complicated, but white has good compensation for the pawn he lost. He has good development. Many of black's pieces are still at home. That is one of the reasons that white has compensation for the pawn. But as said, Antonio played queen b3 instead, also attacking the knight, and the knight went back to e4. Bishop d3 developing, and Rima decided to castle here. White has compensation for the pawn, he has much better development. Of course black lost a lot of time by taking that pawn. The knight went to e4, then took on c3 and back to e4, so that took a lot of time, 3 moves with that one piece, and in the meantime white has just developed, is ready to castle, and black still has to develop his queenside. Here castling would have been a very logical move from Antonio, castling kingside that is, but he played knight e5. Knight c6 from Rima, developing that piece, and now Antonio decided to take the knight on e4. Here Rima could have taken back, but instead he took the other piece, he took on e5. And here white had a nice little tactic. The knight on e5 is hanging, the bishop on e4 is hanging, so it's logical that those two pieces get swapped. Or if white brings his bishop to safety, then black can take his knight to safety. But white has a little in-between move. That bishop is going to be taken anyway, so you might as well get a pawn for it. With bishop takes h7 check. A nice little in-between move, and that wins the pawn back. King has to take, and then you take on e5. and you have won a pawn in the process. Antonio did not see that tactic. He took on e5 and black took on e4. Now here comes an extraordinary move from Antonio. The question is, where would you castle? Would you castle kingside or would you castle queenside? What do you think? Well, I would castle kingside here. I think that's a very logical move. We want to keep our king safe. Especially with queens on the board, it's very important to keep your king safe so that it cannot be harassed by the opponent's pieces. And the king is very safe on g1 with great protection from the f, g and h pawns. But Antonio went the other way. He castled queenside. And his king is very vulnerable there. It's not a good move. The white king has no pawn protection and is in open play, and with so many pieces on the board, that's very dangerous. Bishop d7. Rima is finishing his development. He's better, and that's really just because of the position of the white king. f4 from Antonio, and I think we can understand what he's trying to do. He castled queenside because he wanted his rooks to start an attack on the black king. He has a beautiful bishop on e5 and he was hoping to open lines for his rooks to attack the black king. And we see that how it works out in this game. After f4, black did not have to take, but he took on f3, the en passant move. If you have a pawn on the 5th rank, on your 5th rank, and the opponent plays a pawn 2 moves up, then you're allowed to take en passant, e takes f3. What would have been a better move here would have been bishop c6, and this is really something that Antonio asked for, a tip in the middle game. Well, in this case, black had a very nice plan to improve the position of his bishop. That's one of the things you want to do in the middle game. Find the best squares for your pieces. The bishop on d7 is not bad, but is not great either. And with bishop c6, with the plan to move the bishop to d5, black has improved his bishop. And then he can continue with an attack on the poor open white king. So that's a tip for the middle game. Improving your pieces, putting them on better squares. And this d5 square is really a wonderful square for the bishop. It can never be chased away by pawns. It's protecting the e4 pawn and it's shining through white's position on the queen side where his king will have a difficult time. But as said, Rima took on f3 instead. Antonio did not take back. He played e4 and Rima took on g2, attacking the rook. Rook went to g1 and now white has what he was hoping for. He's opened the lines and he hopes with rook and bishop to attack black's king. The other rook can come over and of course the queen can switch as well. A great plan, but it should not have worked out because black will be quicker with his attack on white's king. Rook c8 check is a good move from Rima. King b2, and here black could have played a move like rook c6 with the threat of rook b6, skewering queen and king. If then white takes on g2, black has to do something about his defense first. A simple move like g6 will be enough to stop white's immediate attack on the king, and he's winning on the queen side. Instead of rook c6, Rima played a5. That's not a bad move either. Rook takes g2. And now he played rook c6, not seeing the danger. This is also typical, mostly for beginners, that they see an attack, they see a plan for themselves, and they get very excited and they execute the moves for that plan, but they forget about their defense. They forget about checking what the opponent is threatening. And in this case, white has a very obvious threat. Both rook and bishop are looking at the g7 pawn. So here, instead of playing rook c6, with the threat of rook b6, which looks indeed very, very good for black, he should have played g6 or even f6, and white's attack is not as strong. But he played rook c6, and now Antonio has what he was aiming for. He castled queenside to set up an attack on the king side, and this has worked out perfectly for him. He took on g7, check, king h8 is the only move, and now there was a mate in 3 in the position. I'll show you the mate. Antonio did not play it, but he could have played rook g8 check here, king takes, rook g1 check, queen g5 is the only move, and rook takes g5 is checkmate. Not a problem that Antonio didn't see this checkmate. He saw the win, because after king h8 he played rook takes f7 check, king g8, and the rook went back for another check, king in the corner, and rook takes d7, attacking black's queen. And let's just see, queen f6 is the only move really, bishop takes, rook takes, and if we count the pieces, white is a queen up. So after rook takes d7, Rima resigned and Antonio won this game. It's quite ironic that the player who got his king very safe on g8 with great pawn protection gets assaulted, while white, who puts his king in open air, survived. That happened because black did not recognize the danger. He should have played g6 or f6 and then continue his attack against white's king. So the main lesson learned here is, even though white won this game, don't castle in open space, don't castle where the danger is coming from. King safety in the opening and the middle game is very, very important. And here white really should have castled kingside, and then the position would have been about equal. But well done to Antonio. He had a plan, at least he had a plan, and it worked out perfectly for him with a bit of help from his opponent. So well done, Antonio, a very attractive game, and thanks for sending it to me so I could share it with the Chess to Progress community. Hope you enjoyed this, Antonio's win, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel, and I'm looking forward to your comments. You also may want to check my Chess to Impress channel with over 150 videos of material. This is Rick from Chess to Progress. Thank you very much for watching.